Hello, and welcome to episode 129 of the REconomy Podcast, where we discuss economic issues that impact real estate, housing, and affordability. If you find this type of real estate economic discussion valuable, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to help us grow this podcast. I am Odeta Kushi, Deputy Chief Economist at First American, and here with me is Mark Fleming, Chief Economist at First American. Hey, Mark. Well, Thanksgiving is just around the corner, and today we're carving up a holiday-themed episode, the housing market things we're thankful for in 2025.
Hi, Odeta, that is a great idea. So what's on today's spread?
Is that a mortgage
Of
spread
course.
Thanksgiving
Of course.
pun?
Exactly. Starting strong. I couldn't help myself. I am a cornucopia full of housing market
Goodness.
thankful ideas. Yeah, I see the eyes rolling.
Yes, indeed. But your pun does actually give us a pretty good starting point for the episode, because the first thing I'm grateful for is lower mortgage rates. Now, rates aren't low, but they are meaningfully lower than where we began 2025. Back in January, the average 30-year fixed rate hit about 7%. And as of early November, we're at roughly 6.2%. That's a pretty big swing for monthly payments and buyer psychology.
Yep. And in 80s terms, we went from under pressure to something more like take it easy. A drop of about 0.75 of a percentage point adds real house buying power, even if prices haven't fallen outright nationally. I didn't get away with it, did I?
No, one of those was definitely a 70s song.
Yeah, okay. But the Eagles, you can't pass up on the Eagles. And this is not to be confused with my Philadelphia Eagles, of course.
Different kind of Eagles, but also still not an 80s song, so it doesn't count. But someone has to keep you honest.
I know.
Now, that decline in mortgage rates alone at today's national median household income, and assuming a 20% down payment and a 33% debt to income, increases house buying power by about $36,000.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. Even small declines can unfreeze decisions for move-up and first-time buyers. At a rate of about 7%, roughly 32% of renters can afford, based upon the current median price existing home, of $415,200. Nice and exact there, by the way, right?
I have to.
$415,200.
I have to.
But at a rate of 6.2%, that share goes up to 36%. So a full 4 percentage points more. And that's a lot of people.
That's some progress. And there's one more rate-related thing I'm thankful for, and that's the mortgage treasury spread narrowing. Now, that's the gap between the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage and the 10-year treasury yield. In calmer times, that spread usually runs about 1.7 to 2 percentage points. In 2022 and 2023, volatility and risk premiums pushed it closer to 3 percentage points. And today, it's closer to about 2.1, still elevated, but clearly better. And that matters because if the spread were still at that high of 3 percentage points, mortgage rates would be a touch above 7%. If it were back at a normal 1.7, they'd actually be about 5.8% given today's 10-year. Instead, we're sitting around roughly 6.2%. So not ideal, but moving in the right direction. And the takeaway here is actually pretty encouraging. We don't need a big drop in the 10-year yield for mortgage rates to ease further. Continued narrowing in the spread alone can help. Now, we don't expect that spread to snap back to 1.7 percentage points anytime soon because we still see prepayment risk and rate volatility in the mix. So most in the industry do expect rates to stay above 6% this year and into next, but I think that compression has been welcome progress throughout 2025.
Indeed, less free fall, more friction coming out of the system, and every 1/10 of a point helps buyers' monthly payments. Thankful indeed.
Very true. All right, Mark, you're next. What aspect of the housing market are you thankful for?
Okay, so we've talked a lot about mortgage rates, obviously, but there are two other key aspects of affordability that have also improved, and that is house price appreciation has slowed down and household incomes have continued to grow. Specifically, that income growth has actually outpaced house price growth, which is also contributing to affordability gains.
That is definitely something to be thankful for. In one of our latest Real House Price Index, or RHPI blog posts, we noted that affordability improved in 39 of the top 50 markets we track. Affordability has generally improved the most in markets with the greatest increases in active listings, which actually brings me to yet another thing that we're grateful for: higher inventory.
Yes, exactly. Remember the Blinken is gone days of 2021?
Oh, I sure do, but gone are those days. Today,
Mhm.
buyers have a lot more options. According to our analysis of Zillow data, active listings have risen year over year for 21 straight months. In September, active inventory was up roughly 16% from a year earlier. The share of price reductions was 26%, up from the pre-pandemic 2-year average of 22%. And the median number of days on market that it took for homes to go from pending increased from 20 days to 26 days. So a little bit more breathing room. Now, we know that inventory is still below 2017 to 2019 norms, but I think that direction is really helpful for shoppers.
Yeah, definitely better than before, but I am reminded of the old adage, it takes 90 days to sell your home. So we're still one third of that. So it's
Yes.
still moving pretty quickly. But translation, fewer bidding war flash mobs, more weekend house hunting without FOMO, of course.
I do remember those days. Now, that inventory growth is actually coming from higher existing and new home inventory, though the growth is slowing.
Wait. Debbie, downturn is back. This is a thankful episode. Remember, no those or buts in this one. We can
I
do
have,
it.
I have to get out of my own way. Okay, yes, back to thankful. So far on our housing things we're thankful list, we've got lower mortgage rates and a narrower mortgage rate spread, improved affordability, and improved inventory. I believe it might be your turn again. So, what else are you thankful for this year?
Okay, so we've now talked a lot about the financial side of housing demand, but housing demand is also very much dependent on demographics and lifestyle decisions, one of our favorite topics at the moment. So the thing I'm grateful for is that demographics are still supportive of housing demand. And despite the fact that affordability is historically strained, the market is still generating about 4 million annualized existing sales. And a lot of those are being driven by the life events we've talked about before in episodes 119, 126, and just earlier this month in our scariest housing headlines episode 128. We seem to really be onto something here.
I think so. Demographics, such a hot
Demographics.
topic. Our
Exactly. So
analysis
sexy.
It is, and an important one in housing. Our analysis shows that millennials, the largest adult generation, are in their prime home buying years. As they convert all that education and career gains into ownership, their household count rises modestly. Our analysis shows that could be from about 36 million in 2025 to nearly 40 million in the early 2050s. But interestingly, the share of home owning households grows much faster. Homeowners are projected to increase by about 10.6 million as the ownership rate climbs from 51 to 73% for millennials. So, together, a modest rise in households and a strong renter to owner shift will provide a pretty long and steady tailwind for housing demand through the late 2050s before it levels off.
That's right. And then next comes Generation Z, who is just beginning its housing journey. As they leave school and set out on their own, Generation Z households are projected to expand from about 13 million in 2025 to nearly 40 million by the late 2040s. The move into ownership also comes later, much like millennials, as education and career milestones are met. The Gen Z ownership rate will rise from 25% in this year to about 66% by 2060, lifting owners to roughly 27 million. Momentum will persist through the 2050s, then begin to tap out around the 2060s as the cohort moves past its peak buying years.
And much further out, you might need your
Mhm.
binoculars for this one. Generations Alpha and Beta form the next wave. Their presence will be limited until about the mid 2030s when the oldest begin moving out on their own and forming households. But by the 2050s, ownership will increase as incomes rise and family formation accelerates, just as millennials move past their peak buying window and Gen Z demand begins to slow.
That's right. Financial considerations and housing affordability matter greatly, but so too do lifestyle decisions. It's lifestyle decisions that drive the decision to buy or rent. And as each generation ages into their prime home buying years, they will also age into those lifestyle decisions that are highly correlated with buying a home, such as getting married and having children. So, thankful for the demographic tailwinds of home ownership demand to come. That kind of sounds like a Dickensian Christmas carol, Ghost of Future Christmas kind of thing that might be said.
Let's not get ahead of our holiday selves, although
True.
I'm already putting out my Christmas lights. So I shouldn't be the one talking here. But, while we're speaking of homeownership, I think we've skipped a very important point that we should also be thankful for, and that's homeownership itself. While it might be a more difficult thing to attain given today's affordability challenges, homeownership is still the primary driver of wealth creation in this country. Now, according to our analysis of the 2022 Survey of Consumer Finances data, Now, this is a survey that's only comes out every 3 years, which is why 2022 is our latest available, but it collects detailed accounts of households' finances. We found that the median homeowner has 38 times the household wealth of a renter. And we also found that homeowners are wealthier than renters at every income level. So, for example, for families in the bottom 20% of incomes, the median net worth was nearly $147,000 for homeowners and only $3,400 for renters. More importantly, housing is the single largest component of net worth for most households.
Huge, huge differences. And to add to this, certainly pertinent after the recent years of inflation, most Americans buy a home using a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So the inflationary, that's a tough one, environment we find ourselves in, for many of those Americans, doesn't have to worry about it because their biggest expense, increasing their principal and interest payments on their home, has remained fixed instead of growing.
That's a really great point. There's also some good news for renters as well. According to our analysis of Zillow rent data, rent growth has slowed to 2.3% as of September. That's lower than the pre-pandemic 4-year average.
So many things definitely to be thankful for, especially considering that rent growth peaked at nearly 16% growth rate in 2022.
Whew, yes, that's significant improvement from those days. All right, I think we've got time for one last thing to be thankful for. What do you think?
Well, let's see. We've talked about renting, owning, demographics, supply. I think maybe we should do something around home building
That's fair.
because it's been a tough time for home builders with elevated material costs, financing costs, affordability challenges. But builders have been building and have adapted to the environment by building smaller, more attainable new homes and by offering incentives to sell those homes.
Yeah, that's a really great point. I mean, the median square foot of a new home being built in the second quarter of 2025 was the lowest since 2009. Additionally, new home sales made up about 17% of all sales in August, which was the highest share since 2003. So we know that builders are offering rate buydowns or even price cuts to meet buyers where they are. In many ways, this is a sign of a challenging affordability environment and builders doing what they need to do to sell their inventory. According to the NHB HMI October survey, 38% of builders reported cutting prices in October. The average price reduction increased to 6% in October after averaging 5% for several months previously. The last time builders reduced prices by 6% was a year ago in October of 2024. The use of sales incentives was 65% in October. So, thankful for homebuilder ingenuity and ability to make new homes more affordable to those potential buyers.
Yes, indeed. So we've covered a lot. I think we might need to recount how many things we've actually been thankful for throughout this episode.
Well, there was lower mortgage rates, affordability improvements, more inventory, demographics and life happens sales, the wealth generating benefits of homeownership, the fixed mortgage inflation hedge, slowing rent growth, and builders adapting to their environment. Did you count 8?
I think I counted 8 on that one.
Okay, we're just going to go with 8.
We're going to go with 8. That is quite a spread. Get it? Bring it around to the end here to be thankful for. And guess what? It's time to get the turkey fryer out and remember the physics lesson about displacement.
Why do you always have to bring up a turkey fryer in every single one of our Thanksgiving episodes?
It's my tradition of cooking turkeys that I'm so thankful for.
All right. Well, on that note, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope that you also get to use your own turkey fryer.
And in true Garfield Thanksgiving spirit, save room for pie. That would be pecan pie for me.
Is that an 80s reference to Garfield?
Yes, it is.
Of course. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on this episode of the REconomy Podcast. If you have an economics-related question you'd like us to feature in the future, you can email us at economics@firstam.com. And as always, if you can't wait for the next episode, you can follow us on X. It's at Odeta Kushi for me and at Fleming Econ for Mark. Until next time.
Thank you for listening. You can find even more economic content at firstam.com/economics. This episode is copyright 2025 by First American Financial Corporation. All rights reserved.